What's up, weebs, and welcome back to Melina, the podcast where we take you down the yellow brick road of anime and have a look at everything it has to offer. As always, I'm your host, Notorious, and Akimashita Omedeto of... Sorry. Happy New Year, guys. Ugh. Why did I think it would be funny to do that? Anyway, yes, it's the new year. You may have noticed that we kind of missed a week. Both podcasts missed a week. Nap was off at the end of 2022. December 30th was when an episode should have gone up, but we didn't want to record an extra episode to put anything out, and we wanted to take some time off. And then Anime Lane should have had an episode on the 6th of January. But that was one of my solo episodes, and I wanted some extra time off. I think between like the full of December, done nothing to do with the podcast, no editing work, no behind the scenes stuff, no promotion. I just sort of let everything lie a little bit, because we've kind of been going, or at least on the back end, I've been going kind of hard for the past 6 months or whatever that we've been doing this. So yeah, it's a new year, and the previous anime season has just ended, so that's the main topic of today's episode. I have my trusty can of Monster with me, so I may be sipping on that during the discussion. So yeah, unlike summer, which, yep, I just had to think, does that come before fall? And it definitely does. Summer, I only had, like, what was it, two shows? I think it was Step X and... Yeah, that's not a good sign. I don't remember what the other show was. But this season I have quite a bit more. So I actually have my anime list up right now. And I'm gonna have to try and figure out how to discuss everything within a reasonable amount of time, because I kind of maybe went a little bit overboard to the point that I still have stuff on my plan to watch that I was going to watch, but I got so exhausted doing so many shows that I just I stopped. But I don't really feel like I missed out on many shows. So yeah. It was Rent-A Girlfriend Season 2. Sorry, I was casually bringing up my list on the side there while I was talking. So yeah, let's see. So how did I? So there's a couple of things I'm only going to really touch on, and I'm not going to go too in depth on, mainly either because they're not finished. Like Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury. Yes, the first core is finished and it's not coming back until April, but I'm probably not going to cover the show until that second core is out and done, and even then potentially it's maybe something I'll kick down the road until we can cover it as like a group, because we've obviously covered the Mobile Suit Gundam, or like the original trilogy of movies, and I want to cover more with Shaun and Melina in the future. So yeah, I'll only lightly touch on that, along with Bleach, 1000 Year Blood War. There's still like 4 core, it's a 4 core run, separated. So we still got 3 more cores, and that's not back until July. I'm also slightly hesitant to talk about Bleach because, like, it's a show that already had 366 episodes previously. So I don't really want to spoil that either. And then I think that's as far as like things I won't be covering right now, because I didn't take on any like 2 core shows. If that I kind of, anything that was 24 episodes, I was like, okay, I'm gonna leave for now, and I'm gonna come back to in winter 2023. So like Blue Lock, I was gonna watch, but because that's 24 episodes and it's just going into its second core now, like it's a concurrent run, I'll cover that. If I do end up watching it, I might just not watch it in the end. I will be covering that until the end of the next season. Other than that, oh yeah, Urusei Yatsura was another one that's going to be 23 episodes, so another 2 cores. The second core, again, has just started this week, I think. Definitely one I'm going to watch, but yeah, won't be getting covered until whenever the winter 2023 episode is. I keep going to say spring, because in my mind, the year starts with spring, but it starts with winter. So yeah, there was some stuff this season I watched week to week, and then some stuff I picked up near the end, binged through and watched maybe like the last 2 episodes as they came out. So yeah, the stuff I watched like week to week was G-Witch. Sorry, that's like, there's some stuff I'll refer to maybe by shorthands, like I referred to Step X, which is my stepmother's daughter, as my ex. G-Witch is Gundam the Witch from Mercury. I also did Bleach, 1000 Year Blood War, Chainsaw Man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk about that, aren't I? Spy Family, Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out Season 2. I thought there was more than that, but looking at the list, actually, that's not too many. What I jumped on later was Akiba Maid War, Bocce the Rock, More Than a Couple But Not Lovers, and that's it, actually. I thought I had more shows than this. I did start watching Berserk the Golden Age Arc Memorial Edition, which I'll talk about. And then there's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stone Ocean, otherwise known as Part 6. Finished up that season as well, so I'll kind of touch upon that. But I'm figuring out how to do JoJo on the show. So yeah, let's go over stuff that I maybe started and then didn't continue with, because there's a couple of shows here. So I started Berserk the Golden Age Arc Memorial Edition, which if people aren't aware, is I think the second adaptation of the Golden Age, and an anime project. Well, technically the third, but yeah. Anyway, so originally the Golden Age arc came out in a trilogy of movies animated by Studios 4 Degrees C. In 2000, I want to say 2007, I think. It may have been 2012. I'm not 100% sure. I could probably just check. But yeah, so originally came out as a trilogy of movies, sometime after the original Berserk 1997 anime came out, which was the first adaptation of the Golden Age, which also adapted the Black Swordsman arc. And I think the Return to Black Swordsman? I think is the arc that follows up. But yeah, so I started watching it. I watched the first 2 episodes, and I really do not like the animation of it. The hand-drawn stuff is fine. It's okay. I'm very attached to, 1, the manga designs, and 2, the 1997 anime designs. But it's the CG stuff that really threw me off. I watched the first episode and was just kind of horrified at how the CG looked and just how much CG there was. Because the first episode is the battle where the Band of the Hawk first meet Guts. So it's when he takes on... I don't remember the character's name, because I think they literally just show up there. So it's they're storming a castle, and like the full episode is this battle pretty much, and just sort of occasionally you see the perspective of like Griffith and the people from the Band of the Hawk, like Casca and Judao and stuff like that. And then the second episode, you kind of get less CG, but you also get some CG, so you get how jarring it actually looks. So yeah, I ended up at after the second episode just thinking I'm not really willing to commit to watching that week to week. So I ended up dropping that. I just wasn't feeling it. I think it's really odd. I'd love like a really good adaptation of Berserk, but I don't think there's a studio that currently exists that could do it justice. I think the 1997 Adaptation done a really good job of adapting the manga, even though it has its own issues. Like it's you know it's slightly not, I don't want to say watered down. There's stuff that's cut purely and simply because some of it, even on late night TV, you can't really show and get away with. Berserk's a hard one to adapt. You know, I think we kind of currently, you know, the past couple of years, it's been like, I will never say that something is like an impossible license, an impossible title to be brought over to the West. You know, we thought Evangelion would probably never get a re-release on Blu-ray over in the West, and we got that. Gunbuster, it was said, you know, that's never gonna get a Blu-ray release over here for multiple reasons. And you know, Discotek, they're currently in the process of working on that. So to say that an anime is or a manga is unadaptable, I mean, people have said that about books as well, you know. So yeah, I don't want to say Berserk can't be done. I just don't think there's anyone that can do it and do it justice. And I don't know if anyone would go back to the beginning and start from the start and do like a true, I don't want to say one-to-one adaptation, because changes are fine, changes are necessary when you're bringing something in a new medium, and I think that's going to be Berserk's like biggest problem. I think the 1997 adaptation really captured like the serenity, the kind of the stillness and everything that was in Miura's artwork that made it very just striking to look at, and channeling some of the, like, I think it's the Uzaki elements, like the postcard effect and all that sort of stuff. You know, those elements really made the 1997 adaptation what it is. So maybe, you know, no, Trigger couldn't do it. I was gonna say, because Kill la Kill has like so many of those elements, but then it also has all the hyper like kinetic animation, so I don't think Trigger could pull it off. That was a weird thought that bumped into my mind, is because I thought about the postcard memories thing. I was like, oh, Kill la Kill used that a fucking lot and done it really well. But no, that's a weird, no, Trigger shouldn't do. No, please, Trigger, don't go anywhere near Berserk. Also, equally Mappa, that floated around a little bit before Golden Age Memorial Edition came out, was that Mappa was going to adapt it, and it's like, yeah, no thank you, please don't. Another one, I'll move on now, I've talked about Berserk enough, I think. My Hero Academia Season 6, I watched the first 3 episodes and then realised, yep, because I'm up to date with the manga, I'm just going to wait until this one finishes airing, which I kind of do this every season. I watch like a few episodes, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to watch this week to week. I just want to wait for it all to come out and then binge it. Because I've already been through week to week with the manga. I think it's, I don't want to say that I think it's on the last like decent story arc before it takes like a turn for the worst. Because after season 6, it's going to be into the final stretch. I think it's going to be coming up on where we are in the manga, because the manga's almost done. Certainly within this year, I think it'll wrap up. I wouldn't be surprised if it's within the next 3 to 6 months. Cause I hate that I'm forgetting the author's name. Horikoshi, I think. Of course, it doesn't show me on the anime page. Yeah, this is the riveting content you get when I do solo episodes. Me trying to remember author names. Kohei Horikoshi. He said that he's definitely looking. He wanted to finish it by the end of 2022. That's sort of what he had aimed to do, but didn't quite succeed. And God knows how long we've got left. I'm kind of just hoping it finishes soon. I don't want to turn this into a discussion in the manga, so I'm not going to go any further with that. That'll be a thing for when it comes, the manga ends. That'll be a discussion for that time. And I'll certainly, make it known I'm definitely talking about the manga, so anime onlys, no spoilers, don't worry. Yeah, season 6, I'm looking forward to eventually watching the full thing. First 3 episodes, it looks as My Hero Academia always looks. It looks decent enough. I don't think it's been as strong since maybe season 4 or 5 animation-wise. Something's just sort of dipped a little bit. Season 4 to me still looked pretty good. I need to check the Blu-ray to see, how much better it looked, with like the touch-ups that these shows usually get. So yeah, I think that's it for stuff that. Oh no, wait, hold on. Arc Knights. Yeah, I watched the first couple of episodes of this. Actually, this was one of my like pickups near the end of the season. I was like, it's only 8 episodes, it should be easy to get through. And I watched the first 2. It looks nice enough. The animation quality is very high. It's got a very cinematic feel to it. But I just didn't feel too drawn in or engrossed by it. I was originally worried that it would maybe be incomprehensible to anyone that hasn't played the game, because it's based on a mobile gacha game. And so I thought, oh great, this is going to be like just nonsensical if you haven't played the game. But it conveyed, from what I've watched of it, the story that it conveyed was understandable enough. But I just felt no compulsion to continue on. I didn't feel drawn in. So I haven't dropped it yet. It's still just sitting on my currently watching, but I haven't watched it since the 22nd of December. So yeah, I probably will end up dropping that. Just I don't really feel like watching the other 6 episodes. Mainly because I now know that I think it's getting a continuation, so it's getting like a second season. And I don't really want to commit to that. Yeah, so now for the stuff that I'll go through the stuff I watched week to week, I think, first. Bleach, 1000 Year Blood War, I'm not going to talk about too much, like I mentioned. It's great having Bleach back. Bleach was one of the first things that I watched when I started getting into anime. Like when I started watching anime, I stumbled across Shaman King again, which I watched on Jetix growing up in the UK. And like I watched through most of it, and I got to maybe like the maybe halfway through, maybe a little more, like the 40s or something like that of the episodes of Shaman King. And I just kind of googled shows or anime like Shaman King, and I got Bleach. And so I started watching Bleach, and yeah, I kind of fell in love with it. I'm very much aware it's not like the best show, but I have like a massive soft spot for it. Same with the manga, which I read in between, the long time off air that Bleach spent. It's very nice having it back. The only thing I will say is that it is very jarring going from Bleach to Bleach 1000 Year Blood War. Those shows, man, like 1000 Year Blood War is a continuation, but it looks so different. Like it has so much love and care and attention. It looks like far better than it has any right to do so. Like especially when you compare it to what the original anime adaptation looked like. Like, man, I want a full reanimated version of this show. Mainly cut out the amount of fucking filler that was in that original one. Like, my god. I think Bleach took me over a year to watch, simply because I'd keep hitting the filler and would just lose all motivation to watch it. Like, I really like all the canon stuff for the most part. I actually like some of the the filler seasons. There were a couple of story arcs in there that were decent, but you go through like maybe a season, maybe 2 seasons of like canon content, and suddenly you're just like shifted. And it's not even like oh well, this part's done now, so let's go back to Karakura and chill for a bit, and then the story arc like naturally develops from there. No, you're like, one season just leaves off with Ichigo running down a hall, and then the next episode, there's just a new story arc, and it does not explain anything as to why. It's very demotivating when you're watching it, but, you know, Thousand Year Blood War, no filler. It's very well presented. It'll be interesting when I watch it back dubbed, because I watched Bleach originally dubbed, watched through Thousand Year Blood War sub, just to keep up with, you know, the show as it was going on, because mainly we didn't really know, when we were getting a dub. Viz don't really do simul dubbing like I was gonna say Funimation, I mean Crunchyroll, and we did eventually get it, but I don't think the last batch of episodes are out in the UK yet. But I'm steadily, I say steadily, I'm like 5 episodes back into it. I'm slowly working my way through the original Bleach again, like just the canon parts, and then I'll probably watch the dub when I've got through all of that, just to sort of get a natural lead back in, because it's been a while. But yeah, very happy to have it back, mainly because, like, I didn't think Thousand Year Blood War would end up getting adapted, and the animation's very nice. I won't say any more than that. I'm looking forward to coming back in July. That's, yeah. What else did I watch week to week? There was Chainsaw Man. I'm gonna leave that to last. Spy Family Part 2, which is great, because, like, I think I watched Spy Family Part 1 before we started the podcast, because I think it aired before the podcast started. And that's good, because it means I didn't have to leave it and wait until the second part had aired to talk about it, because the second part aired after we started the podcast, and it means I can just talk about both. I really love Spy Family. Like, my god, this show is just so wholesome, very fun, and just, yeah, it's such a fun time. If you're looking for, like, a nice, like, slice of life with bits of action in it, I highly recommend Spy Family. The basic concept is, Lloyd, the main character, is a spy known as Twilight, and he is tasked. It's set in this world of, like, it's very much like East and West Germany is kind of the setting, and he works for, like, a spy organization for the other side, and he's living in the other one, and he's tasked with working his way up to meeting and finding out info about like one of the country's leaders, and the only way you can do this is by, like, making a family and enrolling a kid into the school that the guy's son goes to, and working their way up so that they can get into the inner circle. And so that means he adopts Anya, who, unbeknownst to him, is a telepath. There's no real explanation for that in the story, I'll be honest, but, you know, you just kind of accept it. But that also means he needs to find a wife. And so then he meets Yor, and it turns out she's an assassin, unbeknownst again to Lloyd, and unbeknownst to Yor. Obviously Lloyd is a spy. I was gonna call him assassin. That's what Yor is. Sorry, my brain's slowly not functioning today. Anya is aware of both their, you know, true natures, because obviously she's a telepath. And yeah, it's just about all the sort of, you know, shenanigans that occur through that. You know, Anya being at school and not being a very smart or good student. She'd much rather sit at home and watch cartoons, which, you know, I feel you, Anya. I feel you. So that's great. Part 2, the second half, also introduces the dog, Bond. Yeah, I rate that. I rate that content. So yeah, I highly recommend Spy Family if you haven't seen it. Spy X Family if you're, like, looking it up. I definitely think they announced there was another, either it was a movie or a second season is in production. I can't remember which one. Maybe both. But I definitely think this is one that I'll pick up in manga form. Because it'll probably be like a year or so before we get... Oh, they did announce both, yeah. It probably doesn't have a date attached to it. It just says, oh, it's this year? Oh, that's surprising. But yeah, I'll probably end up jumping on the manga, because I can I would fuck with reading this week to week and just sort of having that pure vibes. I did see someone complaining. I can't remember who this was. Was it Twitter or was it a Discord server I'm in? They were like, "Oh, it's spending too much time like on random little side stories where like." Because one sort of story arc had finished up near the start of the season, and it kind of jumped onto, what was it? I think Anya went shopping with her friend, and Yor was learning how to cook. I think there was just a couple episodes where it spent more time on like not necessarily character development. Well, yeah, a little bit of character development. You got a little bit of development there for Becky, Anya's friend. And we kind of got to see a little bit more of some of the side characters that are involved with, like, Yor. And I liked it. I didn't really see it as filler, which was the main complaint that I had seen from this person. I found that a bit odd. I wouldn't necessarily say it felt like filler. It felt more, you know, like it fed into the whole family part of it, because it's spy family. Their main complaint was, oh, we haven't seen enough of Lloyd doing spy stuff. Despite coming off the back of like 3 or 4 episodes of Lloyd doing spy stuff. So yeah, I didn't quite understand that. Uzaki-chan wants to hang out season 2. Yeah, I watched the first season of this shortly after we started the podcast. I went through like a period of catching up with a bunch of stuff I hadn't watched over 2020 and 2021. And Uzaki-chan was one of those because it was on Funimation, and fun fact about Funimation, it fucking sucked if you wanted to watch anything with subtitles. So I just basically avoided it like the plague for the most part. I think you're maybe lucky if 2 shows or 1 show every like 3 seasons took my interest enough that I'd pick it up. Like I think the last show I watched in there week to week before like everything transitioned to Crunchyroll was Irina, the Vampire Cosmonaut, and then before that it was Amim, the warrior, the warrior at Borderline. Amim, I don't remember the full title. The warrior at the Borderline. I don't know. It's not even like, I don't think that's its name in Japanese either. It's got like a different name. And Amim was so boring despite. Like, I was drawn to it because hand-drawn animation, hand-animated mechs, hand-drawn animation for the mechs in that show. Which is something you don't see anymore, it's usually CG. Although G-Witch is now using... Anyway, so I was drawn to that, and it was god-awfully boring. There was just so little happened, and then it ended on this, like, cliffhanger that was like, oh, come back for the next half. Which we didn't tell you we were going to do. Surely there'll be some story there, and I'm like, no, I'm not watching the second half. It's all up on Crunchyroll now, so I might finish it, but yeah. Eventually, Uzaki-chan made its way over to Crunchyroll after the whole merger thing was announced, and I watched it there. I found it very chill, I found it very funny. I like the comedic style of it. Second season was just as fun, I'd say. My only thing is now it's running into the same thing as all of these sort of rom-com slice of life shows run into, is that the main pairing really just need to hurry up and you know, make some progress with each other. Because my main like frustration with season 2 is that you would feel like you're making progress, and then Uzaki would just open her mouth and all of that would be reset because she's, you know, fucked it up. Or, you know, yeah. It ends on such a weird note as well. You think, oh, what's his name? I'm forgetting his name now. The main guy. I don't know why his name's not sticking in my head. I think it's just because Uzaki calls him Senpai all the time. Shinichi. Or Sakurai. Shinichi Sakurai. You think he's gonna confess, and then he just doesn't. It's like, fuck off. Come on. So that was the only real kind of... I don't know how to put it. It sort of falls flat at the end because of that, I think. And who knows if we'll get a season 3. I hope we do. I don't even know if the manga's been translated into English yet. So I can't even jump ship over at the manga like I normally would. But even then, I'd probably only jump ship if the manga was like nearly done. I'm not really willing to commit to something like this because it's not like one that I can read week to week. I'd need to like persist on, not persist. I'd need to rely on like consistent volume releases, which isn't always the case for stuff like this. So yeah, I think that's it for. Oh no, Chainsaw Man. Yeah, that's the that's the elephant in the room. I did not like this show. I started with it's fine and progressed to oh my god, I really don't like this. I don't think I ever dipped into hate, because I didn't rate it lower than a 5. I gave it 5 out of 10. I never dipped below that, which means it is absolutely mediocre and I don't really like it. If I had gave it a 4 or below, I would have really hated it. And it never quite fell into that. I don't know how to convey how I feel about this show. Like, it has no cohesion over many of its elements. It doesn't feel like any of its characters fit together. It doesn't feel like any characters have story arcs or character arcs. Even Denji. Denji is a very one-note character. And then when the show feels like it's making some progress towards either a cohesive, overarching story, or introducing a character that feels like they're gonna tie things together and make all these disparate dynamics work, they kill that character off in the very next episode after they're introduced. And that was when I knew I do not like this show. And that was 8 episodes in. It was so middling. And then it did that, and it soured any goodwill I had towards it. And then it also had to, all of this had to occur in an episode that just has the worst, like, fight scene I've ever watched in recent memory. Because the animation is not necessarily bad, but something about it just either feels soulless, badly composed, or just not well directed. It looks the part. It definitely has a level of cinematicness. Cinematique? I don't know. But none of it feels executed very well. I'll read the manga and I'll see how part 1 ends, because for maybe those who have only seen the anime, or maybe this is your first time you're hearing someone talk about it, which by the way, don't watch it. The manga ran for, like, I think, was it 2020? I think it ended up going on hiatus because after, like, a story arc ended. It was kind of like Naruto, where, like, it was the end of part 1 and then you kind of go into the Shippuden era. I think something similar happened in Chainsaw Man. So I think it's like the first 11 volumes encompass, like, the first major, like, story arc, and I think the anime adapts about half of that. I think we finished somewhere in volume 5, maybe volume 6. So I'll read the other half, because even though I can almost guarantee that this is going to get a second season, I am not going to watch it. I'm going to stay so far away from that. From what I've heard from, like, people I know who've read the manga and that have then watched the anime, something's definitely lacking in the transition between them. And I think even as someone who hasn't read it, I feel that, because people talked a lot about how Chainsaw Man was, like, a really good manga. And then the anime came out, people were hyped for it, and then I saw no one talking about it. And then the people who I did talk to about it, who had read the manga, said that they didn't really feel it. So that'll be interesting, because I kind of want to see, you know, what's lacking, you know, what's been missed in transition. So yeah, unfortunately, I didn't like Chainsaw Man. I just didn't click with it, didn't get along with the animation style, but I think it's a thing where MAPPA have a very same style no matter what they're doing. And something about it is just off kilter. Not off kilter. I don't know how to put it. Yeah, I don't really rate Mappa for the most part. I like Jujutsu Kaisen. I think the style for that worked. For Chainsaw Man, which again still has like its own style, but still you can feel it's a Mappa show. Yeah, for me it didn't work. Okay, so I think that wraps up the stuff that I watched week to week. And I'm now going into the stuff that I picked up near the end of the season. Where I definitely picked up like more shows just because like I had more time on my hands because Christmas was coming up and I was like, fuck yeah, I've no work to do. I can watch some other shows. The first one I picked up I think was Akiba Maid War, which I was not expecting this show to be like as fun as it was. Like, it's so stupid, but it's so fun. Like, the main character, whose name I don't remember. I'm so bad at this. I can remember character names when we're discussing stuff as a group. But when it comes to, like, doing these on my own, I cannot remember. Nagami. She moves to Akiba? Is it Akihabara? She moves to Akiba in the hopes of being a maid. Why? I don't know. Is that a thing people do in Japan? It's also set in the 90s, which I kept forgetting. So she moves to Akiba in the hopes of being a maid and bringing joy to people's life. Like, sure, okay. But it turns out like it's a big war zone because there's like two big groups that like run the place, like Yakuza style. And then she also joins the same maid cafe as Ranko, who is just out of prison, and is like has been a maid for like years and was like, yeah, I don't know how to explain this show. It's like, imagine the Yakuza video games with maids, and yeah, you pretty much have Akiba Maid War. That's the show. That is Akiba Maid War. If you've played a Yakuza game, especially the first Yakuza game, because like pretty much the story's similar. There's differences. But yeah, it was very fun. Like, you'll have like just random stories happening each episode, and then like someone will get killed. Like, Rank will just pull out a gun, shoot someone in the head, and you're like, oh shit, okay, this is escalating, fair enough. And then yeah, you have two maid cafes just duking it out. That's like, there's a baseball episode where they're playing baseball and like just on the verge of fighting the entire time because it's like two rivaling maid cafes. You got the main maid cafe, the Oinky Doink maid cafe, and one of the other ones. And yeah, it's if you're like wondering, if you're in doubt of this show, just go into YouTube and like look at the opening, and you'll instantly get like the vibe of the show. And yeah, it's very fun. It doesn't end in the way I think anyone would expect it to. It's got a slight element of like a western, not necessarily like a cowboy movie, but there's definitely like melodic elements to the soundtrack that inspire like a western feel. And like the especially the ending has like this, you could see it on like a western movie, like it. So there's like all these sort of different elements that just tie nicely together to make this like really unique show. And it's like it's an original show. It's not based on a manga. And like it's a 12 episode show that tells a story, and it has an ending, and it's nice and it's concise. And you don't get that very often anymore in anime. At least not one that can stick the landing. I'm mainly thinking of One Direct Priority on this one. Yeah, I highly recommend Akiba Maid War. I really don't want to say too much because I will get into spoilers territory, and I do not want to ruin the ending of it. And I'm mainly trying not to talk about it too much because Shaun was interested in watching this, and I kind of want to see Melina react to this as well. So I'd like to cover this more in depth in the future. Like, of everything I have watched so far this season, this one is like a candidate for being like an actual episode of the podcast. So yeah, that was Akiba Maid War. I also picked up Bocce the Rock, which, you know, I love a good music show. Throw in a character who is riddled with anxiety and can't really deal with the public. You got me. Yeah, no, Bocce was a lot of fun. It's just like, it's like K-On! But more serious, but also like highly like comedic as well. Just very wholesome. You know, Bocce just wants to, or Goto just, Tori Goto's her name. I can't remember where they get Bocce from. But she's, you know, she just wants to be in a rock band and get famous and you know, not be an awkward person in public, and you know, she's making steps towards that, small ones, but yeah, very fun show. I hope it continues. I think it's based on a manga, so if the manga continues to, you know, be popular enough, I think it'll at least get a second season. Oh man, the manga's been running from 2017, so yeah, probably enough content for like another season at least, if not more. I don't know. I don't think the manga's been translated in English, so I can't jump on it, like I said. But I think for me, a lot of the draw to the show was the music. So reading the manga, like the same thing happened with Given. I've not read the manga for Given, even though like there's no sign of the anime continuing, because the music's a big part of that, and music's a hard thing to convey in you know, a medium that is literally just art on a page. I love manga, but when you're doing music mangas, it's, you know, I'd rather watch the anime adaptation and see how the music gets executed, and Bocce does it like very well. So if you like music anime, specifically anime about bands and them forming and making music and stuff, yeah, I highly recommend Bocce. It's also very fun. If you have experience with anxiety, you'll probably relate to it a little bit, if not a lot. Then I picked up More Than a Married Couple But Not Lovers. I wasn't sure about this show. I remember seeing it at the start of the season on like a lineup or something like that. Obviously the Crunchyroll lineup, but like somewhere I seen it, like screenshots or something. And I wasn't 100% sure. But then I just sort of picked it up on a whim. Mainly I asked in a Discord server, and I was like, has anyone watched this? I haven't seen anyone talking about it. And a couple of people got back to me saying, yeah, it's good. Like it's and yeah, they're right, it is good. I was surprised by it. The first couple of episodes, the first kind of 3, I think, I wasn't really 100% sure on it. I think the character dynamic between Jiro and the main girl, Akari, I think, yeah. Yeah, was really odd. But sort of after the first 3 episodes, it kind of like, that's all the setup, and once it's done with the setup, things kind of click into place, and it worked a lot better. And I like where this season ends, and kind of how it's setting up a new not necessarily a new dynamic, but like a slightly shifted dynamic. If it gets a second season, and I would definitely watch a second season of this. It's very funny. I'd say very funny. Like it's you know, it gets a heartache out of me occasionally. Oh man, which can't be described as very funny, can it? The animation quality was very nice. So yeah, I like the backgrounds of this show as well. They're very reminiscent of Diamond is Unbreakable, like JoJo Part 4. in this sort of like paper, like drawn background type thing. I'm not really sure how to describe that actually. Like kind of cutout type design. If you look up the show and kind of look up screenshots from it, I think you'll see what I mean. But yeah, the backgrounds of it, like when they're outside mainly, and like you can see the sky and clouds and stuff like that. I really like that part of it. It's weird. You sort of, I thought it would maybe conflict a little bit with the kind of characters and like the other kind of elements of the show, but no, it very much works. So yeah, I think it's a very kind of comfy show to watch. So I'd continue on with it, especially with like they're kind of hinting at a new or like a little kind of something a little bit extra going on in season 2 if it continues on, where there's like now a love triangle. It was hinted at in season 1, but it's kind of like really solidified at the end of the first season. So yeah, what else did I have? I think that kind of brings me to the end of most stuff I actually watched for this season. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6 ended. Stone Ocean. This was a really good part of the JoJo's storyline. It kind of brings an end to like the storyline from part 1. Obviously each part's different, but like there's like sort of like a through line, and I will say that whenever part 7 gets animated, it is like a totally new timeline. I've read the first 5-ish volumes of part 7, Steel Ball Run, and yeah, it's like a totally new universe. It's like a whole reset. It's jumps like all the way back to kind of roughly the same time period as when part 1 takes place, but it's like a new universe. It's set in a different place, but we're kind of meeting this not necessarily the same characters again, but like an alternate version of these characters. So part 7 has Johnny Joestar, which is, you know, the counterpart to Jonathan. You have Diego Brando, otherwise known as Dio, Gyro Zeppeli, all this sort of stuff. So yeah, part 6 brings an end to the I can't call it the Joestar thing because the Joestars are still there. The overarching through line of like the current universe. Part 6 gets really weird at the end. That's why I'm really struggling to explain it. But yeah, so part 6 was really good. I had a lot of fun with that. The ending is so like bittersweet but very nice. And like I loved how there's just this scene at the end where they use the ending theme and you're like, oh, this is amazing. And then they finish up using the ending theme and they brought back Roundabout, which is the first ending from part 1, used in the first season through part 1 and part 2. And it just brings this really nice bookend to everything. And it kind of really signifies that, this is the end of an era. Stone Ocean, I don't know if it tops part 4 for me, but I think it's maybe second in terms of where I rank it over like all of the where in like in the list of all the parts. I think it's maybe second for me, with part 5 like just behind it. Maybe maybe part 6 and part 2 tie for me as second, actually. It's an interesting one because the first like 12 episodes came out in December 2021. We didn't get any more until September 2022, and then like the last batch came out in December 2022. So it's been weird because I've watched it in very like broken up chunks. Excuse me. So I'd like to go back and like not finish it because I did finish it. Watch it in like one big chunk. Like binge through it like I did with part 4 and part 5 and get like an idea of the kind of how everything together fits. But that will wait for a time when I'm rewatching all of the anime parts, because currently I'm reading through all the manga parts. I'm like halfway through part 2 right now, and I have part 3 waiting. Probably when I'm like halfway through part 3, I'll buy part 4. And I think they're still publishing volumes for part 5. I don't think that's finished in English. And then Viz are weekly releasing chapters for part 6 onto the Shonen Jump app. And I don't really know, they haven't mentioned when they're going to start doing volume releases for that, but I think it might not be until after part 5 is done, probably just to like save any confusion. But I'm mainly interested in when like official translations will start for part 7, if we'll get that before it gets animated or not. I doubt it, but if Viz go the route that they've gone with Stone Ocean, I'd like to see them release chapters weekly to the Shonen Jump app whilst the like volume versions of part 6 are being released. That would be cool. Like when they're done with the translation for part 6, if they start on part 7 like soon after, that would be awesome. Mainly I'd like to see us get it, you know, like at a decent time and not maybe like 2 or 3 years down the line when we're getting part 7 animated, which I don't know when we'd get that. There's usually maybe like 2 or 3 years between them, but I feel like this is a good place for David Production to take a break if they want to. Yeah, I think I'm kind of rambling at this point. I think I've talked about everything I've watched this season. I'm getting a little confused because I'm looking at my like entire list. I haven't done it just down to completed or whatever. So I'm seeing stuff that I put on hold, and like One Piece is there because it's still airing this season, and Boruto's obviously still airing, and that's on my dropped list. And there's stuff that I haven't got around to watching, like Do It Yourself, Lupin Zero, Shinobi no Itoki, The Lies We All Tell, and Urusagi Yatsura. But yeah, I think I've covered everything I've watched. I hope my thoughts make sense. I always worry about doing podcasts on my own because I feel like I don't make any sense when I'm talking about stuff. So yeah, thank you all for listening to this episode. We're now obviously back from New Year break, or the Christmas break, festive break, whatever you want to call it. And things should sort of return back to normal. I think the next episode you'll be hearing is going to be another solo episode from me. We had one more group episode recorded before Christmas that I've scheduled for February. End of February. So you'll be hearing me on my own, probably. At least one more time before you hear Shaun and Melina again this year. And then hopefully by that point we're back to recording stuff. Yeah, because as of yet we've not kind of put anything on the books for when we're recording again. I think we're still sort of in holiday mode. It's kind of hard to kick yourself out of that when you've been in it for a month or so. So yeah, Happy New Year. Thank you for listening, and here's to a good year of the podcast. Bye.